Bournvita has been in news recently, but for all the wrong reasons. The question that everybody is asking, is the drink healthy as it portrays to be or claims to be? Now, as per company's own admission, every 20 gram of Bournvita has 7.5 gram of added sugar, which is approximately 1.5 teaspoons. This means for every 100 gram of Bournvita, you are consuming 37.5 gram added sugar. Now, products that have more than 22.5 grams sugar per 100 grams are considered to be high in sugar as per the UK's health regulator. In India, there is still ambiguity. Now, we all know that too much sugar is not healthy. It is unhealthy for kids as well as adults. It leads to a variety of health problems and is clearly not in our best interest. So why exactly are we hearing about this right now? There is a reason for it. Joining me at this point in time in the studio is my colleague Suyash. Suyash, I want to come to you first. Let's understand where it all began from. The controversy over sugar or high content of sugar in various products in India is not new, but where did this all start from?
So Shweta, on April 1st, this influencer called Revant Hemant Singha, he put out a video on Instagram which claimed that, which talked about the harmful effects of Bournvita. Now, Revant made a bunch of claims. 3 stood out. First, that Bournvita is high in sugar level, which can cause diabetes. Second, it contains cocoa solids, which has, now cocoa contains caffeine naturally. So, Bournvita also has caffeine. And the third is that it has cancer-causing colorants. Now, the video went viral on social media and amassed nearly 12 million views in a matter of days, with many celebrities also retweeting and resharing the video. Now, Cadbury hit back and they called Revant's video unscientific and said that the video distorted facts and made false and negative inferences. Now, on April 13th, Revant takes down this video after receiving this legal notice from Cadbury. And in an Instagram post a day later, he says that he apologized to Cadbury first and then said that he had no intentions of defaming Cadbury, and more so he has no intentions to participate in any legal court cases.
Okay, it's interesting because we were playing up that clarification that he's put out, and he's not saying that the claims that he made were misleading. What he's essentially saying is he does not have the wherewithal to start a legal case and would hence not want to go ahead with it. Took down the video. Also joining me at this point in time, my colleague Karthik Malhotra and Dr. Shikha Sharma, who's a nutritionist. I want to come to you first. Karthik, this is an ongoing controversy. We've not covered it in the first initial few days, thinking that this was perhaps limited to yet another brand, yet another product, but this is deeper than that. This is about the health of our kids, our children, but also about misleading branding, which a lot of, I think, huge FMCG companies are getting away with.
Yeah, Shweta, it's difficult for an individual to actually take on a large corporation like Mondelez, right? So, very simply put, yes, there was a video, it went viral on social media, it amassed a lot of views. Apparently, whatever claims were made by the influencer are not totally unsubstantiated. But it's very difficult for an individual to go up against an MNC as large as Mondelez. Now, the point that needs to be driven home is these products are still getting sold in India and perhaps in other parts of the world as well. So, the larger question needs to be asked to the regulators, to the food authority bodies, FSSAI for example, that if these products are indeed harmful, why are they permitted to be sold? Why are they available on our shelves? And if they are not as harmful as they are stated to be, do they qualify as healthy ingredients to go into beverages or to go into milk, right? Of course, the health benefits of milk have also been debated multiple times over, and those who believe in the vegan way of life, have a problem with dairy as well. But one knows scientifically for a fact that dairy definitely has protein. Dairy helps you build muscles. And Dr. Shikha Sharma would be able to educate us on better advantages of dairy. But if these products go into a healthy dairy product, are they adding more harm than good? And if that is the case, then these products need to really be upfront about the warning and the potential health hazards, rather than putting them at the back of the cover in very fine print that many people in India don't really take the time to read.
Okay.
As a nation, we are not that health conscious yet. We want to do our morning walks. We want to talk about air pollution. We want to talk about eating salads and eating a rich diet food. But how many times do we really go and look at anything written behind the package being sold apart from the MRP or at best the expiry?
Okay, we're not conscious, not that conscious just as yet. Dr. Shikhar, we also have at this point in time joining us Dr. HPS Sachdev, who's also a member of various committees that have been constituted by FSSAI. FSSAI, the regulatory body in India, under question for not really, making these brands accountable at large. I want to come to you, Dr. Shikhar, first. We looked at those numbers and they're not really looking good. 37.5 grams sugar for every 100 gram. What does that do to a human body?
So fundamentally, if you really take a look, that if you take 100 grams of the Bournvita packet, almost 48% of that is only sugar, and it's listed on the back side of their label. It's not even something which somebody is claiming is extra sugar. It's listed by them. Now, with what stretch of imagination are they calling it healthy? Because fundamentally, if I take 48 grams of sugar in a bowl and add a multivitamin tablet and start making claims that it's good for bones, it's good for immunity, it's good for muscle, that's not true, that's misleading. Why? Okay. Because I just took sugar, added a multivitamin component which is coming from a chemical. There is no natural source of multivitamin there because vitamin C and all that you cannot have in a processed food. I mean, it doesn't stay. Plus another problem, which is high sugar is one of the biggest problems, and today world over, whether you look at pediatricians, their councils, you look at health councils, they all say don't give sugar to kids. It will cause attention deficit disorder, it will cause childhood obesity, it will cause gut, irritable bowel syndrome in kids. So having said that, I think fundamentally they are using financial muscle to stop someone from saying what is the truth. Now, the second thing which also he touched upon was there are a lot of emulsifiers in these packaged products, a lot of emulsifiers, and emulsifiers have direct correlation with irritable bowel syndrome in impacting the gut biome, in imbalancing the gut biome, and the gut is the biggest source of immunity. I mean, in our intestine, we have huge amount of immunity which is getting compromised if you keep having foods which are high in sugar and emulsifiers. Okay. So what I don't understand is how could the company actually not be cognizant of this fact that this product given to small growing kids, I mean, these can actually be harmful, and they are claiming the real opposite. And mothers are spending their hard-earned money to give this product to their kids every day, thinking that they are doing something good. So what I feel is, I think it's time to understand that companies have to be more accountable to the customer from whom they are making billions of dollars.
Okay. Let me get in Dr. Sachdev at this point in time. Dr. Sachdev was also a member of the Nutrition Advocacy in Public Interest Group. Dr. Sachdev, I want to begin by asking you, you have and your organization has now come on record to side with the influencer and said that you will be lodging an official complaint with Ministry of Consumer Affairs. I want to understand how long before the process really kicks in. There are guidelines in place, and also help us understand what sort of guidelines have FSSAI put out recently as far as branding and packaging of high sugar content is concerned.
Sorry, your voice broke down a little bit, but whatever I could understand is yes, as a member of the NAPI, we have supported what this influencer has said, and actually we have been saying the same things, but it has not gained this much prominence for over a decade now. As has already been highlighted, these are unhealthy. These are products which are vastly exaggerated for the benefits which do not stand the scrutiny of robust science, and simultaneously the potential risk or the harms are hidden. Now, they are operating within the legal framework, in the language, in the manner it's couched, and one can't fault a company for sort of going ahead and doing what its business is. But it is for us and the regulators to make strict guidelines that such things do not come about and doing it. I think apart from the vastly exaggerated claims, the more serious issue here is of the potential harms when the countries facing an epidemic of non-communicable diseases. And one generally tends to look at the obese people there. And what we found in a national survey throughout the country, rich, poor, urban, rural, more than half of the children between 5 and 19 years have what is referred to as metabolic obesity, for whom such a product, be it given in milk or in water or such, is undesirable. Yes, the government has some regulations in place. Enforcement is an issue with the FSSAI and the Consumer Affairs. These need to urgently become topical, contemporary, and relevant so that such marketing or harmful products, the way they are viewed as beneficial, stops in the people mind. And for that, the government has to be nudged or take into action. I would make a fervent plea that this controversy should bring some rationality into the advertising which is there. And this is a problem all over the world. But in India, considering the context when the people are much less literate, the urgency is much more desirable.
Okay.
Thank you.
You know, the controversy in India is also bigger because there's ambiguity on what's the threshold. And I want to take you back to the technical committee that was constituted by FSSAI way back in 2020, wherein it was decided that the warning labels should be placed, you know, firmly on every product that has more than 6 grams sugar per 100 gram. That was then revised 6 times to more than 36 grams. So as of today, if any product has more than 36 grams sugar per 100 gram, there should be a warning label. In this case, Bournvita has 37.5 grams. Why is there no warning label? Why is there no clarity, sir, from FSSAI's side?
So, let me first speak with knowledge as the WHO Geneva member of the guideline group. The levels of sugar intake which are supposed to be higher they should not form more than 10% of the energy. And cognizant of that, the WHO had defined, especially the CRO office and the India country office here, what should be the cutoff levels for the sugar which have been shared with the FSSAI and with everyone else. And I would technically, scientifically, unambiguously state that these are the correct levels which the industry should be applying to, irrespective of whether it hits their business or not. The large population health is important. The second question that you asked me is about the warning labels. I think one can't ask the companies to do the self-regulation. The government has to strictly enforce this, and this issue has been under the discussion for over 7 or 8 years. And the one school of thought in which the industry is wanting to be also supportive of is to give a health star rating system in which you say that a product is on the basis of whatever is there is a healthy product if you have 5 stars, 4 or 3. But the problem with that is that if you have an adverse profile, like you have a high sugar which is not good for the diabetics or high salt content, that can be easily masked by adding a few nuts or things or fresh fruits. So the clear or the better way to go about, in my opinion and by several studies and experience of other countries, would be to put a direct labels which will make even an illiterate consumer, and particularly a child and adolescent, see that this product is high in sugar, high in salt, or high in fat, and I need to be aware of this and not consume it. So that's the right way to go, apart from those products which are directly harmful or impacting on the children, to reduce their advertising, or at least they should never ever be advertised to children.
Okay. You know, let me put out a disclaimer at this point in time that the views expressed here on this panel are that of experts independent of what TV9 believes. It's also important to note that the health system, the nutrition rating that was put out by, FSSAI says that anything that has half a star is least healthy, anything that has 5 stars is most healthy. What Nabi believes in this case is that you're rewarding them with a star as opposed to penalizing them for being harmful. So the system, therefore, that has been devised by FSSAI is flawed in its nature.
No, I'm not sure I'm 100% in agreement with that. You know, a half a star rating or a 1-star rating or a 2-star rating, for anybody who is used to a rating system, a star system, it doesn't qualify as a reward. In fact, if anything, it's a loud and clear warning that it doesn't even meet an average 3-star rating. So anything below that, whether you talk about safety in automobiles, whether you talk about any product you're buying off Amazon, you know, if it has a 1-star rating, 2-star rating, you actually don't go ahead and buy it. So I think these nudges, as these are known in strategic management terminology, these nudges are important. You know, a thumbs up or a thumbs down is a clear indicator. A smiley and a frowny is a clear indicator. And these star systems also become clear indicators. And for even the slightly lesser educated people in a hurry buying shelves of the product, it's very easy to see. You don't really have the, the knowledge and the expertise to understand every single component and its percentage and how much of it should go into your diet. Dr. Shikha Sharma is the expert there, but most people who go and pick up products from the shelf or buy them off the internet don't really understand a lot of what is written. Okay. You understand there are red flags, right? Preservatives, red flag. High sugar, high salt, red flag. But how much of carbohydrates, how much of protein, how much of which vitamin, which mineral, a layperson doesn't understand. So I think these nudges are really important. Okay. Now, this being a kid's product, obviously these nudges can be a little more kid-friendly, I suppose, than a star rating system. But kids also today get stars and get sort of smileys on their homeworks. But yeah, some sort of nudges are definitely required. They just make it completely idiot-proof.
Okay. Do you agree, Dr. Shikha? Any sort of warning is a good warning, be it a star, be it a rating, anything that can advise viewers that this is perhaps not as healthy as it claims to be?
I think it's definitely a good step, because what happens when you are talking about a country with a billion population, changes are not easy, and therefore the star system is a visual representation of what is good and what's not good, and it's good to start somewhere. Because right now, otherwise all those complicated numbers, in fact when I looked at the packet, I had to find a magnifying glass because it was so small. So that's why I think that star rating, which is simple, which is clear, and which is not so ambiguous, is the way forward.
And front of the pack rather than back of the pack.
Yes.
That is your show window. You pick up a product looking at the branding. Along with the branding, and I think not just for kids products or not just for ingredients that go into diet, for anything that you buy, a star system or a similar nudge, I think in the front of the label along with the product, we've seen that hopefully work with respect to, let's say, cigarette packets.
Yes.
Right. So there is a very clear and present warning, but of course, there are different guidelines for tobacco, and it is classified as injurious product. These may not be that toxic, I believe, I hope that they are not as toxic. So maybe the warning need not be as graphic as in the case of, let's say, tobacco. But some sort of nudges, I think, are definitely required so that it becomes completely idiot-proof. You go, you see a product, you know whether you need to buy it or not, and this needs to be mandated. This needs to be a rule. You want to sell in a country, you want to keep your product available on the shelves, it cannot go, if it is an edible product, a health-related product, it cannot go without these statutory warnings.
Absolutely. Let me also, put it out there for the benefit of our viewers at this point in time. We do not have a statement or a representation from the company, in this case from the parent company of Bournvita. In case there is a statement that comes in, we'll be happy to amend and put that out.
But I think let's put out the official statement that came earlier, which specifically says that it is a scientifically formulated product, and the post has actually created panic and anxiety. That is why we in this case Mondelez, we were concerned by the recent unscientific video on social media that went abnormally viral, distorted facts and made false and negative influences about Bournvita's safety and efficacy. Okay. That's the official statement that came
That's
from
the official
Bournvita.
Statement from the parent company of Bournvita that has come out. We've put that out for you, but we'll be happy to amend in case there's a representation that comes in from Bournvita. Sticking to the point of branding and false branding, I mean, that was one of the claims that was made in the video, that this is false branding. It's not healthy, it's high sugar, but more importantly, and this is something Suyash pointed out in a discussion with me, that it also has caffeine, which is considered to be extremely harmful for children, Suyash.
Yes, Shweta, the amount of caffeine, although is about 2.4 to 4 4.8 milligrams, which is significantly lower than the 100 milligram recommended, but it still contains caffeine, and the fact that they are not putting it out on the label is kind of concerning. Would you agree, ma'am?
I agree. I mean, because caffeine is addictive, like sugar is addictive. So anything which falls in that addictive, band should be put out in the label.
Okay. Dr. Sachdev continues to be with us. Dr. Sachdev, I want to understand from you, sir, what is the responsibility of FSSAI in this case? We know that the controversy is out there, everybody is talking about it, reading about it, but there are also calls for FSSAI to finally step up and make sure that the branding is such, especially with content with products that have high sugar and high salt, that it's clear to the layman without having to look at the back of the packet that this product is perhaps not as healthy as it claims to be.
Absolutely, one word answer, total agreement with you. That's the role of the FSSAI, that's what it should be doing. I mean, it has to come into play immediately, and there have been objections on the draft FSSAI regulation which has been put up, like they're giving too much of a time of 1 to 2 years. But I mean, considering a country of the regional variation, literacy levels and all, you need to have an upfront front of the pack warning that look, this could be harmful to your health. So just beware, be careful if you want to consume it. That's all it's saying. These products are not to be banned or done something like that. I mean, one has the right to information. The consumer needs to get the correct right to the information to make their own personal choices and not get swayed by the claims. The guidelines and the rules are there, but the main problem is the enforcement. I've had several times or experiences for the self-regulation or the ASCII to write on this. The ads have gone away, a couple of them, 2, 3, but you can't take it on as a full-time job. The enforcement is a very key issue which has to be done.
Okay, and we are given to understand that you, as a member of NAPI has now approached Ministry of Consumer Affairs?
Yes, we have approached several quarters and have written letters on several quarters to this. And I would, with the earlier speaker, say they said a nudge. We want the nudge to be a shout rather than a nudge, in the sense that a clear warning should be there. The reason I state that is because countries like Australia have given up the Health Star rating system just now because they found it is subject to manipulation. You have product high in sugar that a diabetic person or a pre-diabetic does want to know whether it has high sugar. You add a few nuts or some other things and it becomes a star rating 3.5. So that's how manipulation can be effective in these things. And I mean, with whatever muscle power we have as academics, as what you may call activists, we are trying to stir up in every level. And I'm so happy that this thing has come up or been projected, but hopefully it doesn't die down without some action which benefits the population of India.
Okay. You know, Karthik, this is important because we're talking about Australia, UK and every other country. They're having a guideline as to what is permissible, what is not, what sort of branding is okay, what's not. But in India, there seems to be a way around these guidelines. It's very easy for, and I'm saying this because there've been instances in the past, be it Maggie, controversy around FMCG, businesses able to subvert laws, subvert existing mechanisms to find their own way. In this case particularly, we don't know whether there's going to be any action or not. I mean, it's easy for us to sit here and talk about it. We don't know if there's going to be any action on the ground. But what's important to point out is that in India, it's easy to get around laws, to sort of be able to find your way and do things as you like. And Bournvita, many would say, have done the same.
You're right, Shweta. No two ways about it. It's easy to delay the process, and once a process is delayed, I'm not saying you will for eternity be able to circumvent it and the law will never happen. It'll happen, but things take time in this country to actually go through and pass through its multiple stages and really get enforced, right? And of course, there could be a court case filed against an order like this, and then there is an overall delay in the judiciary and things can get stalled. Now the problem with stalling is that public memory is very short-lived, and advertising dollars available to multinationals are fairly large, proportionately large. So public memory short, great advertising, a new breed of advertising, a little change in packaging, and this can all very well become history. But I believe there is not a thin line, rather a fairly thick line between something being not healthy and something being injurious to health. So while claims may eventually get substantiated or not, I don't know, science is going to eventually prevail over that. But there could be a situation where, yeah, maybe the claim that it is a health-based drink may be done away with, but the jury will still be out there to really try and discern that is it really an injurious drink. And if that is the case, of course, you need warnings. And like Mr. Sachdev was saying, you need shouting out warnings. Until then, I think what you need are nudges that treat this advertisement or treat the information given there with a little bit of suspicion. And obviously, if it is a product that you're giving to your child or to somebody, whose immune system or body may not be able to digest it or process it or take right advantage of, consult a dietitian, consult somebody who can advise you better.
Absolutely. And Dr. Shikha, I want you to come in here at this point and make us understand, when it comes to labeling and branding, where do you see India as opposed to maybe, developed country like a UK or Germany or France? As far as our branding on food packaging is concerned, are we clear? Are we there yet? What sort of enforcement have you seen in the past couple of years? Has there been a turnaround?
See, when we talk about India, India is huge. It's one of the most populous countries in the world. It's a billion population.
The most, actually.
Actually, the most.
That came in today.
All the more reasons to dole us out more healthy products.
Now, if you look at the whole regulatory mechanism or the machinery, it is very tiny compared to the size of the population. So even with their best efforts, I have serious doubts they can actually, the regulator can actually do much beyond what they're already doing. I think what is more important is, that companies have to come forward and come up with self-regulatory bodies, because peer pressure works better than a government pressure. So a self-regulatory bodies should be constituted which clearly say that, okay, a recreational product. See, alcohol can be a recreational product, it's not banned in India, but everybody knows it's alcohol, versus something where somebody is claiming that it's good for your kid, it's good for your health. So that is stretching it too far. So that's why I think what is really important is that you can't, this is a clear-cut case of misleading advertisement and should be taken as that. Because in fact, they should come forward and talk about that on what grounds did they give that ad that it is healthy, it is good for the bones. Because even like today if you put a multivitamin in an alcohol glass and say it has multivitamin, it's good for your health. So similarly with so much of sugar, they've just added some multivitamin and saying it's good for your health. That doesn't cut ice, because if there's something harmful, it's going to counter the impact of any other thing you have already put in that.
So just to play devil's advocate, ma'am, help me understand.
Yes.
A 200 ml glass of milk.
Yes.
If I add 1.5 teaspoons of sugar.
Yes.
And drink it, versus let's say adding 1.5 teaspoons of Bournvita and drinking it, which of the two is a greater evil?
Bournvita. And I'll tell you why. It's a greater evil.
Even though it has multivitamins added?
Yeah, because
even though it has immunity boosters added?
Because it has emulsifiers, it has artificial colors, it has artificial preservatives, and all those act against the gut.
Okay.
So even with a devil like sugar, it's still worse because it has all those chemicals which help it stay on the shelves for 18 months or 12 months or increase its shelf life.
Okay. So, and emulsifiers are typically preservatives? Is that right?
Emulsifiers basically, they help oil and water to be homogenized. So when you take a spoonful of any of these drinks and you add to milk or sugar, they form clumps.
Okay.
So when you use emulsifiers, then they kind of homogenize better, they mix better.
Right.
And especially if you see that there are a lot of colors which are added. Now they might say they're all approved colors, but you can't be having artificial colors every day in your kids' diet.
Right.
So those are the real problems.
Right. So, is it okay to consume even a product like Bournvita, given these claims, and these claims are yet to be substantiated totally, but even if one were to believe these claims, is it okay to still have this in moderation instead of having it every day, instead of having it twice every day? Is it okay to have them in moderation, or according to your professional opinion, these need to be discarded completely?
So, I would say three things. The first is that if they are being consumed for boosting immunity, improving bone strength, improving muscle, then it's completely wrong.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing like fresh food which can do all three. You don't need a product to do all that.
Yeah.
If it is as a recreational drink, like chocolates, like toffees, like ice creams, which have all these things also, then it's a recreational product, which means that a kid wants chocolate, he's having a milk product with Bournvita. Third thing is, every day, if you are giving it to the child, you're actually building or training the taste buds to become addicted to sugar.
Of course.
So, these are the three, I would say, broad areas where I would say that mothers and institutions need to take cognizance of the fact that when you're dealing with a child, you're dealing with a growing body, which has very long-term effects.
One more idiot-proof question, if you'll permit me. A Cadbury Dairy Milk chocolate being sold, same parent company, Mondelez, Cadbury, a Dairy Milk chocolate being sold does not make any claims of it being healthy.
Absolutely, yes.
A Bournvita packet being sold makes claims of being healthy.
Yes.
Let's say ceteris paribus, economic term, all other conditions met.
Yes.
If there is the same level of satisfaction that a child derives to quench the sort of, zeal for, let's say, having a chocolate-based product, between a Cadbury's Dairy Milk, which doesn't come with a healthy sort of, disclaimer tag to it, versus a glass of milk, 200 ml, with 1.5 teaspoons of Bournvita, which of the two is a lesser evil?
See, I'll tell you, it's a difficult question. The reason being is that most people would not give a bar of chocolate to their child every day, because it is recognized as unhealthy, and in fact, most mothers would only give it as an occasional treat.
So 20 grams of chocolate versus 20 grams of Bournvita added in 200 ml of milk.
So there the difference or the weightage of the milk comes in. If it is just Bournvita, you take a spoonful and eat it, and you have a milk chocolate, it's the same.
So then is the claim really at a fundamental level incorrect that Bournvita added to milk and the advised prescribed, let's say 20 grams being consumed is healthier? It may not be healthy, and that's also of course a very ambiguous term. It may be healthier than a similar product being sold by the same company.
I wouldn't say healthier, I would say lesser evil.
Which becomes healthier.
Healthy is a very wide term. I would say lesser evil.
Okay. So you were talking about artificial colorants and that are being added, and Rivant also in his videos, one of the things that he pointed out was that these artificial colorants can cause cancer. So are there any studies that substantiate those claims? Have you read anything about it?
See, if you see globally, cancer is rising phenomenally, right? And now cancer is being called a lifestyle disorder, which means that people in whose lifestyle they are having certain kinds of foods, which is primarily packaged foods, and they are sedentary or they have other issues of lifestyle, they are more likely to get cancer, because now cancer has become a lifestyle disorder. Having said that, it's also proven that the gut biome gets trained by the food you eat. So if starting from the age of 7 or 8, when typically mothers like to give milk to their kids, until the age of 15, when the kid starts choosing for himself whether he likes it or doesn't like it. So those 10 formative years, from say 5 to 15 or whatever, 8, 9 formative years, you are stuffing food into the body which would have long-term side effects, which we still don't know. Because see, these prospective studies have to be done over 10 or 20 years to be really true. Because suppose if somebody says that sugar is harmful, now if I drink a little sugar today, it's not going to kill me tomorrow. But yes, you have to keep studying the impacts. The problem with food studies is that it has to be done over a longer period of time.
But ma'am, a brand and a product like Bournvita has been around for decades.
Yes.
If there were actually some scientifically proven adverse effects, wouldn't they have surfaced already in a more empirical sort of a way? rather than it still decades later being only at a hypothesis stage?
See, if you look at the ingredients, each of the ingredients has some or the other research study which shows that it is unhealthy. So, if I look at it in a different way, like if I look at each ingredient individually, pick up each, whether it's sugar, whether it's emulsifier, whether it's artificial colors, and say that there are enough studies to say they're unhealthy for kids, then obviously any product, whether it could be another company's product also.
Right.
If they put all these ingredients together, if those are the ingredients with which they are making this product, it is unhealthy. Now, what happens is that in every country, if you talk about the ingredients and say it's unhealthy, companies usually don't take action. The moment you pick up the brand name and say it's unhealthy, that's where
the antennas go up.
Yeah, the antennas go up. So, what I think fundamentally is very important is that we have to understand that whether it is A company or B company, if there is a product which is chocolate, which is sugar, it is unhealthy. It is unhealthy for the kid and definitely should not be given every day.
Okay.
Shweta, there's one point I want to make here. There are
Yes.
sugar alternatives available in the market. There are brands which I'd not like to name. There are brands which are using, let's say, date extract as a natural sweetener. There are products which are using many other such techniques which are substitutes for sugar but apparently give the same level of satisfaction to any consumer. But these are also priced much higher because the cost of raw material, the ingredient that goes into them, is much higher than sugar, which is more easily and available at a much cheaper price. So the point also is that to cater to a large base, do companies really have the option today to not add a product like sugar to their ingredients and yet be able to provide a product to people who are affording it at present but may not be able to afford it if the input cost, the raw material cost goes up drastically? So that's one point I wanted to make, and perhaps one question that Mr. Sachdev might be able to answer is that are we looking at Bournvita now being an isolated case against which you're going to crusade, or is this going to open the Pandora's box for every other such product available in the market?
So, thank you for allowing me to come in. I have to make a few points, but I'll directly answer the question you raised, in which it would be wrong to just the one which has come out. Any product which crosses the high sugar, high salt or high fat threshold is a risk to the health in the future, especially if consumed in large amounts, and they all should be treated equally.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't intend to sort of do this again. But a report published in the Hindu newspaper today said that out of 1,306 samples which claim to be dairy confectionery sweets, there are only there are less than 20% that actually had below 36 grams of sugar. So we are saying we are pretty much, and 36 is also, like Shweta had mentioned previously, is a 6x increase on the permissible amount of sugar content. So are we actually pretty much going after the entire market?
Listen, I mean, it reminds me of the time when I was there, when smoking was a very good thing. It was felt to be in style to be smoking, and in fact there are studies or there were attempts to prove that smoking is good for health. So 36% in a product, you say if one person takes it at one time, what harm will it cause? Certainly if it takes at one time, but as Shikha ji illustrated, it's really the addictiveness and the combination of all these things which constitute what is known as a ultra processed food, and one continues to have the craving to have this. So the best way to go about looking at this would be to design an experiment wherein people are put away from such products and they go to the natural phase. And that one experiment was done in the US on the ultra processed food, not on the Bournvita product or any of the products like this. They were told to consume ad libitum the ultra processed food versus the homemade foods. And guess what? In just 2 weeks' time, the adults, these were adults, gained 1 kg of weight, and their metabolic factors on diabetes, lipids, and all started going haywire. So, on the other hand, you're talking of this high sugar, there is enough evidence, the 10% of the free energy, which I told to you from the WHO, I would request you to see that document. That's based on randomized controlled trial evidence, which shows that if you reduce the sugar content or the intake below this level, you become more healthy, or if you consume more than this, becomes unhealthy. So it's a question that you ask is, yes, the industry can reduce this amount, they can self-regulate. It may not be possible in all the products, but then the consumer has to decide whether the consumer is willing to take that risk for it. I think the core of any decision making should be the health of the person and not the business prospect from this perspective. It's the same analogy which applies for the smoking.
Okay.
And the second point that I wanted to make, a very brief one shortly, is I think the way this has been advertised, they are legally not too wrong or perfect as far as what the current rules and regulations and laws state. As Shikhadi was mentioning, if you put in a multiple micronutrient pill, I mean, these are the claims which the FSSAI has stated that if you have excess of this amount of vitamin, you can make this. They don't say it. It supports immunity, supports bone growth. That's a vague claim, but the way it is perceived by the consumer and with the magnifying advertisement and showing the child who is a small one versus one who is consuming more becomes more like this, is that immunity boosting actually can be harmful also. Many of these products cause an extra immune response to cause allergy. Allergy is immune mediated only. So all these ultra processed products, the discussion which was occurring, all these components, the more n number of components you add to make it more tasty or addictive, your allergies are going to rise, and there is enough data to show that.
So give us a headline, sir. Are you going to go after only the companies which are which claim to be health beneficial to the health and maybe false in their claim, or is it your endeavor to even pick up companies which don't really claim to be healthy but have high sugar content and hence a shout or a nudge or a warning that these may still be injurious to health?
Yeah, I am definitely. I think we are mixing up two issues which the advertisement world likes to do. That is making stupendous claims of benefits and at the same time hiding the negative repercussions or the risks to the health.
So those are the ones you want to go after,
and
sir?
both must come to the fore. If any product is not making a claim but is high in products which are likely to impact the health negatively, there must be a clear warning label, a shove as I would prefer it rather than a nudge, on the front of the pack labeling where it states that. And for the benefit claims, I think one has to become much more rigorous about this and be aware of the way in this, which is its couch. That's the advertisement world's business. I mean, that's a livelihood, the way that they do it, that it doesn't give very false hopes. So that has to be made in a very serious way. The FSSAI has attempted it, like I told you, using softer words, but the way it is portrayed, and they transgress the territory of the line, thick or thin, whatever it is, at many times, but which may not go with the legal scrutiny and all the time that it takes for the legal. So both aspects, benefit and harms, have to be taken care of in this thing.
And how much time are you giving yourself, sir, to see this battle through?
Let me clarify, I'm not a member of the FSSAI panel at the moment. I served 2 terms of 3 years, which ended in March 2023, and not directly in this advertisement panel at this thing. But the draft which has come up has given them an extra time in whatever it was. If it comes, anyhow, they haven't taken a decision whether it's health star rating or a warning label. I mean, I think it's 3 or 4 years time which has been given, which is too high. You can't wait for this thing. The companies can easily work around this and much more later, especially the bigger giant multinational companies. They are willing to reduce the content to someone, and as you said rightly, the delays are inevitable, and we are losing out on the health of the people all the time. Admittedly, it is making some money for some people.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so there's a time frame here that the companies have been given, 4 to 5 years, which clearly is being pointed out. Very long a time frame, enough for these companies to turn around, work around. But the idea that that is a very long time and perhaps that time needs to be cut down. Remember, Napi there says that they're going after every drink that claims to be whether healthy or not, but has high sugar content, to be brought under radar of FSSAI and put out a label there that it's not safe for daily consumption.